Hi, and welcome to the Belmont Housing Resources for Western New York, Section 8 about housing choice voucher orientation. Today we're just going to be going over your program participation, what that requires, your rules and regulations for the program, and how to maintain your voucher. What is a voucher? All those details. I want to start off the presentation by saying congratulations on receiving your Section 8 assistance. I understand many of you have been waiting for a very long time. I know our waiting list is approximately 10 years. My name's Madeline. I'm a housing specialist here at Belmont Housing. I won't be your specific housing specialist when you join the program, but I could potentially be your housing specialist further on. So it's good for you to, just get to know each other. I want to just introduce myself so we can move on with the presentation. So starting off the presentation, I wanted to go over one of our partner agencies, Housing Opportunities Made Equal. They assist with sources of income discrimination and housing discrimination in general. Specifically for our clients, we typically see familial and income-based discrimination. I'm going to go over what those mean. So the types of discrimination also could be, I don't want to say the traditional types, such as age, race, sex, gender, sexual identity. Any of those are commonplace in the community, but more importantly for our program is income-based discrimination, where landlords will say, I don't accept Section 8, I don't accept rental assistance, I don't accept Belmont, BMHA, I don't accept RAC, I don't accept anybody. That's income-based discrimination. It's also income-based discrimination if landlords say, I don't accept security agreements from the Department of Social Services instead of just accepting them. The law changed back in June of 2019, where it's now illegal for landlords to deny you a place to live because you are paying or you have a security agreement for if there's damages to the unit at the end of your tenancy. So if a landlord says, you can't rent here because you can't pay me a security deposit, I won't accept a security agreement, please report it. It is income-based discrimination. The same way it's income-based discrimination if a landlord says, I won't accept Belmont, I won't rent to you, I don't rent to people who have Section 8. Familial discrimination is when you go with your children and landlords say, I don't accept kids under 6, I don't accept kids under 5, I don't accept kids under 8, I don't accept kids. Anything that has to do with denying you because you have a family is familial discrimination. A landlord also can't say, if you are pregnant and you go there and you're not showing, and then you go back to pay the security deposit and you are showing now, a landlord can't say, oh, I've changed my mind, I'm not going to rent to you. That is also familial discrimination. So please keep that in mind. If you've encountered it, again, please report it. The more times we report, the better we are able to add to the community and the more cases home can bring to court and judgments against bad landlords in our community. Home also can help with housing search. If you're having a really hard time finding an apartment, they can meet with you. We have those services here at Belmont, but say maybe our lobby is really busy that day, or you haven't had a chance to come to our office, you can't set up a time over the phone, they are also open and can also do that. I also want to briefly talk about the Family Self-Sufficiency Program. The FSS program, you should have received a flyer in your red folder. It looks like this. It says Family Self-Sufficiency on the top. You can fill out this form and send it back to us. This Family Self-Sufficiency Program is a savings account for an escrow program. The idea is as your portion of rent increases over time as you become more stable on the program, as you pay more in rent, in the long term, they would match what that increase is and put it in a savings account. After you have met your FSS goals, could be completing classes, doing something in the community, maybe saving some money. Once you meet your goals and you meet with your FSS coordinator to go over your goals and formulate a plan, follow their guidelines, you could then receive this money, and it could be a significant portion, especially if you've been on the program for a long time, and especially if you're responsible for paying more than half your rent. It could be a significant amount. This savings then could be used for down payment, deposit, car payment, student loans, anything of that nature. That money is put in that escrow account and it's saved. I would highly recommend you reaching out and filling out that form. It is a wonderful program. So what's inside your folder? Everyone should have received a red folder. It has your voucher packet, your tenant packet, your landlord packet, and a purple utility allowance schedule. The schedule right now is purple, but depending on the paper that was in the printer, it might be a different color, but I will show it to you when we get to that portion of the presentation. So I'm going to introduce you to who your housing specialist is. Like I said, I'm not going to be your housing specialist. Your original housing specialist when you join the program will be one of 3 people, and I'm going to go over that. Understanding your Section 8 voucher and what that means, your income, your affordability, the range where you can be, how to find your dream home, and then a summary of the program. So if you are joining the program as a regular participant, your housing specialist will be Shellen Wright. Um, Her email is swright@belmonthousingwny.org. We do prefer to be contacted by email, seeing as we get a lot of phone calls. Email is just easier for us to just shoot off a quick answer right to you instead of having to call you back and do the whole process. We of course will answer our phones. Please give us 48 hours to return a call. We will, mail, fax is fine, but email is definitely preferred. Shellen is not available on Wednesdays, but she's in the office Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. If you have joined the housing program through the FUP program, Family Unification Program, FUP program, your housing specialist will either be Melena Thompson or Mike Ladarzik. They are in the office Monday and Tuesday, Thursday and Friday. They're here all week, either one of them. Again, they do prefer to be contacted by email, and I would recommend reaching out to them if you are part of the FUP program. If you are joining our program through the VASH program, VASH, Veterans Assistant, you will be working with Laura. Laura will help you with your program. I can give her contact information, or you can reach out to one of these housing specialists and ask for her contact information. So I'm going to explain the legal relationship between us and you now, between Belmont and you. So what is Belmont? Well, Belmont is a public housing agency. We are funded through Housing and Urban Development, HUD. HUD sends us money to administer the Section 8 voucher program. Us and you are tied together by a voucher. This voucher I'll go over. The legal relationship between us and you is the housing choice voucher. You received a voucher today. When you sign it, it means that you agree to all the program rules and you agree to abide by all the rules and regulations of the program. It also means that we agree to assist you as long as you follow the rules. Belmont and the landlord have a very similar contract. It's called HAP contract, HAP, Housing Assistance Payment Contract. And this is pretty much the same thing as the voucher, but it's between us and the landlord. And again, it means the landlord will abide by housing quality standards, meet our rules, follow the program regulations. And if they do, they will receive payment from us, from HUD. So we are tied together to the landlord through the HAP contract, and we are tied to you through your voucher. There is a third part of this program, and it is a lease, and it is separate from us completely. The lease is between program participants and their landlords. We're not involved with the lease. We're not party to any leases. Once you sign a lease with your landlord, which we will require you do when you join the program, you will be there for a year. Please read the lease very carefully because it could have details in there that you're not aware of. Could have details in there such as you're going to shovel the snow, where you're going to park your car, fees for pets, fees for laundry usage. You need to read the lease very carefully because landlords will put things in there. And if you don't know what you're signing, you could end up in a situation where you're not happy and we won't be able to help you move for a full year. So please keep that in mind. Please read your lease very carefully because once you're in it and once you've signed it, I can't get you out of it and none of us can. So understanding the rules for Section 8, this is one of the longest parts of the program. I'm going to try to read through the rules pretty quickly. But to start off, I would like everyone to take out their blue sticker packet. It says tenant packet on it. I will also get it out and show it to you. Looks like this. It has a blue sticker in the corner and it says tenant packet on the front. You should have an identical one with a red sticker called landlord packet. Don't get that one out. Only get the tenant packet out. I would like everyone to turn to page 2. It has a letter B at the top and it says tenant obligations. This is your copy to keep. I want you to go home and go over this with your household members because this is a household program. Everyone in the household, doesn't matter if they're 16, 18, 21, in their 60s, doesn't matter. The whole household has to abide by these rules and regulations. If they don't, you could lose your assistance for something your household member did. So we're going to go over this. Like I said, this is your copy to keep. I would recommend you go home and go over this with adult household members, especially if you have teenagers in the house or kids right on the cusp of adulthood. Go over this with them and express to them that they can be putting your rental assistance in danger if they don't follow these rules. Like I said, so this is going to be the longest part, but we're going to read it out. So, receiving the voucher today does not mean you are on the program, only that you have been determined eligible for the program. This means your assistance does not begin today. Please grab the tenant packet. We've already done this. Turn to page 2. Everyone should be on page 2. You've waited a long time for your assistance. We want to make sure you and all your household members are following the program rules. Make sure you read and open all mail from us. We send you a lot of mail. A lot of mail. It's a lot. But you need to read all of it because if you don't, you could end up in trouble. Also, a lot of times the letters have very specific details such as due dates, times, necessary items that we need. So please read them very carefully. If you're having a hard time understanding what the letter says, please call your housing specialist. However, if you call me and you haven't read the letter, I'm going to ask you to read it because I just want to double check that you understand we're both on the same page, understanding that this letter is important. Like I said, you're going to receive a lot of letters. Just make sure you open all of them. And if for some reason you're not receiving mail, please contact your post office and figure out why you're not receiving it. Or if you're in a big rental complex, contact your rental complex manager and figure out where your mail is going. Household income and composition will be recertified annually. Please supply all information requested by Belmont, even if it feels like you just filled out the forms or turned in paperwork. If we request anything from you, it is because we need it. No, we are not requesting it to be mean. We need this information to keep your file in compliance with HUD. Because our program is funded through HUD, we have to always be in compliance with HUD. So when I'm asking you for documents, I'm not asking you because I want them, because I personally want them. I'm asking because HUD is requiring that I ask them of you. So please turn them in when I ask for them. I stated earlier that HUD funds this program means we have to follow their rules, and it means, landlords also have to follow HUD's regulations. Again, your assistance is your responsibility. Your housing specialist gathers what we need from you and what is necessary to keep your assistance. Please turn in paperwork so that we can maintain your assistance. We receive lots and lots of paperwork. Please understand it takes time to process this paperwork. Paperwork is processed in the order it is received. If you handed paperwork in today at 9 a.m., please don't call me 10 minutes later asking if I got it. I probably didn't receive it. I'm probably still processing paperwork from the day before. We typically give all of our deadlines 2 weeks out. We're not saying that we need 2 weeks to process your paperwork, but if you could give us 48 hours, we would really appreciate it. Please notify us if you will be away from your unit for an extended period of time. If you'll be away for 1 or 2 weeks, then there's usually not a problem, but if you're going to be away for 30 days or more, you must notify your housing specialist. For example, if you're going to stay with a sick relative for a few weeks, it's probably not a problem. If you're going on vacation for a few weeks, also not a problem. But if you're going away for an extended period of time and you haven't told us and we're paying for a house you're not currently living in, that could be a problem. So just give us a heads up if you need to be out of the house for longer than 30 days. Also, you need to let us know because we could be trying to send you mail or schedule an inspection, and if you're not there to get our mail or to be there for the inspector, it could put your assistants at risk, and we don't want that to happen. Allow Belmont to inspect your unit at reasonable times and with reasonable notice. You will receive letters with when our inspection will be out there. Our inspectors come out, the time and date. They'll also have a phone number to call to reschedule if you need to. Notify Belmont and the owner in writing before moving out of the unit or terminating the lease. When you first come on the program, you will have to sign a 1-year lease. After that, you can move in accordance with your lease. You will have to give written notice, so that may be 30 or 60 days depending on what the lease says. Again, we're not party to the lease, you have to abide by it. Please note, we need a full rental period's notice. As an example, if you give notice, if you want to move into a new place for September 1st, you must give notice before the 1st of August. That way, that full month of August is a full rental period's notice of advance notice that you're leaving. And you need to give it in writing, not only to your landlord, but also to us. We cannot start the moving process unless we've received notice. Use your assisted unit as your family's only residence. We are providing assistance for your apartment. We want you to be the only resident. I don't mean you specifically, I mean you and your family. Obviously, if you would like to add people, that goes back to notify us if you are adding anyone to the household. Please notify Belmont in writing of the birth, adoption, or court-ordered custody of a child. A child must reside in the unit at least 51% of the time to be included on your voucher. For example, if you have your 2 kids 2 days a week, they cannot be on your voucher. 51% of the time means that you have primary residential custody and the children attend school in your school district. Request Belmont approval before adding anyone to your voucher. We have to run a background check and everything we have to do. We also have a lot of forms we need to fill out. If the children are under 18, there's less forms, but there's still going to be paperwork that we need. So even if it's just a kid, and even if you don't know if it's going to be a permanent situation, please let us know. Promptly notify Belmont in writing if a family member lives with you longer in the unit than 30 days. Be prepared to get verification on how they got there, whether they moved in or what's going on. If someone leaves, we're also going to need verification. We're going to need 2 forms of verification on where they went. You also have to notify us within 30 days of them leaving. So 30 days when they join, 30 days when they leave. Within that time, you have to let us know. Give Belmont a copy of any owner eviction notices. Evictions are unfortunate, but they do happen. Please do not hide this from us. We will ultimately find out. Oftentimes, tenants can go to court and get granted a mutual termination, which is not the same thing as an eviction. When you are formally evicted in court, marshals come to your door, they put the red little sticker on, you lose your rental assistance, and there is no way to get it back. If you get a mutual termination where you pay the landlord a certain amount of money, or maybe you have to leave by a certain date, it's not a termination, you get to keep your assistance. So please go to court and show up. The judge will most likely grant you a mutual termination. Additionally, let us know so we can refer you to proper legal counsel. There's lots of agencies in our community that do free legal counsel, and we will refer you to them. We do not want you to lose your assistance or your home. Please pay utility bills, supply and maintain appliances as required by the lease. Assume the responsibility for any housing quality standards breach caused by your family or your family's guest. The housing quality standard is what our inspectors are looking for when they do an inspection of your apartment. Essentially, you must take responsibility for any damage done in the unit, even if even if a guest damages something and you're not specifically directly responsible for it. They're your guests, you're responsible. If your children are dumping, say, toys down the toilet and you break the pipes and your landlord has to dig up their front yard to get the pipes fixed, you're going to have to pay for it because you live there and you caused the damage. I have had that happen, so just keep that in mind. Supply only true and accurate information. When you are recertifying, you have to fill out an application that tells us who is in the household and the household income. When you sign this form, you are agreeing that everything is correct. You will be held responsible for telling the truth and responsible for telling true and accurate information. Like I said earlier, you are responsible for all the information for those in your household, not only you. So if you have adult children who are working, who live with you, You cannot claim that you didn't know and that you didn't know to report it. It's your responsibility. You are the head of households. You must report. You could not use the excuse, like I said, you didn't know. Or maybe, you got a job, part-time, temporary, on the side. All of those need to be let us know that you are working now. You cannot own or have any monetary interest in the unit that you propose to rent. You cannot rent from the parent, child, grandparent, grandchild, brother, sister, step relation, or in-law relation of any household members. For example, you cannot rent from your child's father or mother. You cannot commit any serious or repeated violations of the lease. You cannot participate in illegal drug or criminal activity. You cannot commit fraud, bribery, or any corrupt or criminal charges in connection with the program. You cannot sublease the unit or assign the lease to another tenant. You cannot receive Section 8 subsidy-based assistance while receiving any other housing subsidy for the same or different unit under any federal, state, or local housing assistance program. You will have to move out of public housing or subsidized unit in order to receive our assistance. There's two types of Section 8 housing, project-based and voucher-based. Everyone today is receiving voucher-based assistance. If you are living in project-based housing, where the unit is subsidized by the federal government, by HUD, unfortunately, you will have to move. You can only receive one type of Section 8 assistance. The voucher is nice because it travels with you and your family wherever you go. Wherever you live, it's going to be subsidized. Whereas if you live in project-based housing, the unit itself is subsidized, and when you leave, the subsidy stays with the house, not with you. So, like I said, if someone's living in subsidized housing right now, that's okay, but if you'd like to receive Section 8 voucher assistance, you're gonna have to move. You cannot damage the unit or premise. You may also be terminated if your family has engaged in or threatened to engage in abusive or violent behavior towards any Belmont employee, so please be respectful. We're not going to call you up and scream and yell at you. Please don't do it to us. We're not going to come into your space and scream and yell at you and throw things. Please don't do it to us. You can be terminated for it, so please don't do it. The most important part of the program is reporting. We touched on this a little bit, but I'm going to go into more details. We are tasked by HUD to use the Enterprise Income Verification System, or EIV. EIV tracks your social security number. Every single time you use your social security number for anything, I know about it. So if you've decided to, apply for some jobs, maybe you work 2 days here, 3 days here, a week there, and you didn't tell me about it, I'm gonna know about it and I'm gonna make you go get documents from those jobs. I'm gonna make you hunt down that employment, because if you don't, you could be terminated. You have to be reporting. Even if, like I said, even if you only worked for 2 days, you still have to report. If your income has changed, we're going to find out when you are being recertified. So be truthful and prompt. Like I said, report within 30 days of the change. You must report all household income and/or composition changes within 30 days of the change. If you lose your job, get into the habit of getting verification from your employer that your job has ended. Turning in your last 4 pay stubs tells us nothing. You could say, here are my last 4 pay stubs, but it doesn't have an end date of your employment. I'm gonna need a letter saying, they're no longer working here, you're no longer working there, so that I can remove it and adjust your rent. I wanna make your rent affordable for you. And obviously if you're not working, what it was when you were working isn't gonna be affordable. But I can't make a change until I have documentation. If you have submitted something from your employer in the last day worked, so if you start a job, any kind of job, regular, full-time, part-time, seasonal, or temporary, you must report it. Of course, since you just started, you cannot get pay stubs, but we will ask for a letter from your employer with your rate of pay and your hours worked. That way we can do a calculation. If you are seasonal or temporary, we're going to need how many weeks you work out of the year. So say you work at the arena during hockey season. That's not a full year's worth of work, so we want to make sure that we're doing the right calculation. We would only calculate it when you're working during the season. We want to get in the habit of keeping your pay stubs, because I'll request 4 current consecutive pay stubs when I do a calculation of your income. So make sure you just have those somewhere on file for yourself. If you have children under 18 working, now you still have to report it. We verify it, but we don't count it. Once they turn 18, we will count it towards household income. If you have adult children in the household, you have to report their income as well. You cannot use the excuse you didn't know they were working, you weren't sure. You're signing and filling out this paperwork. It's your job to know. Income does not just come from wages. It could be unemployment, child support, public assistance, Social Security, regular gift income, such as a relative paying a phone bill for you. Workers' compensation, we will also find out, so please report it. Household members are expected to contribute to your rent. I've said before and we'll keep saying it, your assistance is your responsibility. If you do not report the changes to household composition and household income, that means we could be paying more on your behalf than we should. In that case, you could owe us money. If we say go into EIV and it looks like there's a bunch of jobs you didn't report to us and you've earned, some money here, some money there, we can total it up and put you in a repayment agreement, meaning that you'd have to pay us that money back for the overpaid rent. It could also mean that you could be terminated from the program for not reporting. So not only could you be terminated, but you could also end up owing us money. If you are terminated from the program and you owe us money, you cannot get rental assistance from another agency. You cannot get rental assistance from another agency until that money's been paid back in full. Breaking the rules that we have talked about could result in negative consequences. If you have determined that you've broken the rules, we will send you a letter of pending termination, which gives you 10 business days from the date of the letter to respond and fix the problem. Some of you may have received one while going through this process. This could have been for not returning your paperwork on time. You fixed that problem and the pending termination went away by just turning in your documents on time. Well, just turning them in. However, after those 10 days of the pending termination, we would send you a final termination if you haven't fixed the problem. The final termination gives you an additional 10 days to supply paperwork. If you fail to do that, you could end up going to a final termination and being removed from the program. It's very important to open your mail and understand when things are due and how to get things for us, because we need them, and if we don't get them back within a certain time frame, you could lose your assistance. So if you get a final termination, you get the final termination letter. You have 10 days to supply the paperwork. You also have 10 days to request an informal hearing. You would write a letter to your housing specialist saying, I need an informal hearing for such and such a date. Your housing specialist will reach out, find a housing officer, and contact you to verify the dates and times. If you do not supply a request in writing within 10 days after the final termination, you cannot request a fair hearing. After those 10 days, there's no way to get one. You have to request it as soon as you get that final termination letter. You can bring an attorney or representative. You just have to notify us that you are bringing such a person to your meeting. You'll receive letters stating once we've spoken about the time and the date and the location. Like I said, you just have to let us know if you're going to be bringing someone. Okay, so I would like everyone to take out their voucher packet. It looks like this. There should be 2 of them in there. One for you to keep and one for you to sign and return to me, or return to your housing specialist. Like this. It looks like what's on the screen as well. And I'll move the. Please leave the copy that says your copy of the voucher packet in your folder and take out the other one. Everyone, please look at the right-hand side of your paper. You will see where it says unit size in box 1. That is the number of bedrooms that we will provide subsidy for. However, this does not mean you necessarily have to rent an apartment with that many rooms. In general, for every 2 adults, we will give a 1-bedroom voucher. Children of the same sex will have a one bedroom. Different generations will have separate rooms, and children of the opposite sex over the age of 6 will have separate rooms. For example, me and my boyfriend would get a one bedroom voucher. Me and my son would get a two bedroom voucher. Me and my son would get a two bedroom voucher because we're different generations. Me and my boyfriend would get a one bedroom voucher because we are the same generation. Me and my mother would get a two bedroom voucher, again, because it's different generations, but me and my sister would get a one bedroom voucher. However, it doesn't mean that, say, me and my sister would have to rent a one bedroom house. You can rent as many bedrooms as you want. However, we're not going to pay, HUD won't allow us to pay over the amount that we've determined you're eligible for. So if you find something with more bedrooms that's in your affordability range, you can rent that. That's totally fine, but it does have to be in your affordability range. So if you have any questions about that, please contact your housing specialist and they can explain that in more detail. Please look at box 2 where it says issuance date. What does this date say? It should say today's date. Think of this as a stopwatch. You will have 60 days to find an apartment and return the landlord packet, which we will go over later. You have to return that landlord packet within 60 days. You do not have to move into a new house within 60 days of today. Everyone look at the box below the issuance date. What does it say? It should be when you need to have the landlord packet back to us completely filled out. If you have not brought it back to us in that time, that landlord packet completely filled out, you lose your rental assistance and your voucher goes to the next person on the waiting list. If the time on your voucher completely expires, like I said, there's no way to get more time. You are eligible for 2 30-day extensions. So you have 60 days, and then you can request 30 days, and then you can request another 30 days. So 2 30-day extensions. However, you have to request those extensions. They're not given. You also have to request those extensions in writing. So if you're not sure of where you'd like to go, you might want to stay where you are and not use the time on your voucher. You will be using time until we have a landlord packet turned back into us, but if you're unsure and you feel like 60 days and then potentially 60 more days is not enough time, you might want to remain in place. If you're ready to move though, go ahead. So your extension. So 60 days, getting kind of low, you're a little bit worried, you want to request an extension. How do you do that? Your request must be done in writing, and you must be able to prove you have done an exhaustive apartment search. Otherwise, your extension will be denied. Your housing specialist will send a reminder letter in 1 month if you haven't already submitted a unit, one of those landlord packets, which will include an extension request form and apartment hunting form. So make sure you keep track of your units. You would even just write them down on a piece of paper. Hey, went and looked at this place. That's fine. You may want to, like I said, you may want to consider staying where you are, even if it isn't the best place if you're not sure, or maybe you need money, you need to save up for a security deposit. We could at least help you with the rent for this year where you are, and then, think about moving later. But you'd still need to turn in a landlord packet either way if you're staying or you're moving. So if everyone understands all the program rules and regulations, I would recommend that it's required that you now sign your name in the box next to where your name is printed. It says signature of family representative. Name of family representative, signature of family representative, date signed, that's where. So sign in box number 6. So understanding your voucher, where can you use your voucher? You can move wherever you would like in the United States with your voucher. Your voucher right now is for your eligibility here in Erie County. If you would like to move out of the county, out of the state, it's called porting. It's not a now or never thing. As long as you are not in the first year of release and you fulfilled the terms of your leash and you are in good standing with the program, you can move. That being said, we don't give you any additional time because you are moving away. So if you want to move out of Erie County, do your research right away. A lot of housing authorities won't take your paperwork if you have less than 60 days left on your voucher. We will not help find units in different areas, nor will we know what you can afford in those areas because the payment standards and cost of living will be different. It's in your voucher packet, everybody. Please turn to income verification. It also says income summary in the top corner. If you do not have any income, you probably won't have this page. Please review your income. If there are changes, please place a star next to it and write what needs to be changed. So say maybe we miscalculated your social security, please write miscalculation next to it, or wrong, that's also fine. Or if you realized as we were going over this, oh, hey, I do work a seasonal job or I do work a temporary job, please put that down as well, where you work, that you work a job. Review your income, and as you review it, please initial where it says tenant ID on all of the pages. If you are receiving a public assistance, we include what your entire grant is worth, not just what you get in cash. Some of you may have allowances. These are out-of-pocket expenses if you are elderly or disabled. You may have medical expenses listed here, or you may have childcare expenses for children under the age of 13, for people who are either working or going to school full-time. Again, review it. If it is correct, initial at the top or star it and write what needs to be looked at if it needs to be adjusted. If your income or allowance summary needs to be adjusted, please contact your housing specialist. Some of you may have assets as well. The assets I care about for this program are savings, checking, life insurance, 401k, Roth IRA. Those are assets that I care about. I don't care that you own a car. That's great. That's not an asset that I'm looking for. The assets that I'm looking for, like I said, are savings, checking, and life insurance. If you have a 401k or a Roth IRA, please let me know as well. Again, if we didn't count this or you didn't know that you were supposed to report it, please write it on the side with a little star next to it. If everything looks good, just put your initials next to tenant ID. So now we're going to go over payment standard. The payment standard is what we base your rental assistance on. The payment standard that we will use to determine your subsidy will be the lesser of the voucher unit size or your actual unit size. Like I said, so if you're approved for a 3-bedroom voucher, but you find a 2-bedroom home that you love, we're going to use the 2-bedroom payment standard, not the 3-bedroom payment standard to calculate your rent. The same way if you are only eligible for a 3-bedroom payment standard, but you found a 5-bedroom house that you love, you're still going to only receive subsidy for a 3-bedroom payment standard because that's what you're eligible for. This is just starting point figures for how much your assistance you will be getting. This is not what we will be paying for you or your rent. You are required to pay a portion. We're going to go over what that means. A portion of your income will have to go to rent. This is the maximum amount, these numbers, this payment standard, if you had no income at all. No public assistance, no SSI, no SSP, no wages, nothing. So this is our base number for helping us figure out the calculation. For somebody with a 1-bedroom voucher, they will have a payment standard of $745. However, there are areas that cost more to live in than others. For example, Hamburg, Orchard Park. They will have a little bit more rental assistance. As you can see, not a lot, because the cost of living is higher in those areas. For a 1-bedroom, say in Hamburg, it's $760 a month as a payment standard. As you begin your housing search, please consider the benefits that you may experience by moving to an area of greater opportunity. Neighborhoods with lower levels of crime offer safer environments for individuals with families with children. Better quality housing opportunities, increased access to job opportunities, grocery stores and fresh food, and green spaces such as parks and playgrounds, increased likelihood of finding and maintaining employment. Children may experience better academic outcomes in school and be more likely to enroll in college. Lower levels of some physical health conditions such as obesity and diabetes. Lower levels of psychological distress, including depression and anxiety. I want you to find a place to live where you are happy and healthy. If you're comfortable in the area where you live right now, stay there. As long as you are happy and healthy where you are, that's all that matters. So I've marked in yellow the exception payment areas. You can see that Buffalo and Lackawanna are not exception payment standard areas. They would have to go by the traditional payment standard. You can see that these areas in yellow are the exception, and so they would go by that higher payment standard. Make sure when you're looking for housing, you're checking the census district track, because sometimes they jig and jog around certain streets and you may or may not fall in exception or not exception if you're right on the border. So say you're on the border of Cheektowaga and Buffalo and you're not sure if you're exception or not, you'd have to call us and we'd have to double check that answer for you. Okay. So affordability calculation. This is still in your voucher packet, so just turn the page. Please turn the page to where it says certification of eligibility or affordability calculation. At the top, it will say who your housing specialist is, double check that. It will have your social security number, also double check that. It's only happened once in my experience where there's been an error, but just double check. Your household size, if you're adding someone or you didn't know you were supposed to add or not add someone, just double check to make sure it's accurate. If there's been a change, again, just contact your housing specialist and mark on the paper that there's been a change. If there's been a change, your updated eligibility information, you'll have to call for that because these numbers won't be accurate if there's been a household change. Okay, in the upper right-hand corner, it shows allowances. In this example, this person has a 2-bedroom voucher. They have 3 people in their household, and their allowances are as followed. $960 for dependent allowances. That's because for each child in the household, we subtract $480 as long as the child is under 18. For an adult dependent full-time student household member, so say you have 17 or 18-year-old who goes to school or a 19-year-old who goes to school but still is dependent on you, dependent allowance. The elderly disabled allowance subtracts $400 from the head of household who is either elderly or disabled. We must verify their disability status. Child care allowances are out-of-pocket expenses paid for by yourself for children under the age of 13. We allow you to either go to work or be a full-time student. So if you are paying child care allowances, even if you're just paying a portion through the Department of Social Services, even if it's $1 a month, we can still deduct that. So please let us know so we can make that adjustment. In this example, this family only is deducting child care allowances just children dependent allowances. So they have 2 children because each allowance is $480. So $480 plus $480 is $960. So this family, you can see that their gross annual income is $9,528 minus $960, meaning that their annual adjusted income is $8,568. We also can deduct from medical allowances. So if you have a lot of medical expenses and you're elderly or disabled, so over 62 or disabled, we can deduct medical allowances for you. So say you have a consistent, medication you have to pay out of pocket for at the pharmacy, or maybe you have, a doctor's bill that you have to pay every month, or you were in the hospital, those kind of consistent payments that you're making, we can deduct. Do contact your housing specialist about it. They can go over it specifically with you and see if your expenses do count as deductibles. Some of them may, some of them might not, but traditionally we do typically accept medical expenses. Okay. So this is the same example. This is not going to be what your paperwork looks like, obviously, because your family is not the same as this example family. This example family has a gross annual income of $9,528. We're subtracting $960 of that for their 2 kids to get their annual adjusted income of $8,568. We take that annual adjusted income and we divide it by 12 months because there's 12 months in a year. So that's $714. We multiply that by 30%. That 30% is the minimum contribution you would have to make towards rent. And then we multiply it by 40%, which is the maximum family contribution your family can be paying in rent. So the minimum contribution your family in this example is paying is $214, and the maximum contribution is $285, meaning that Belmont is paying the rest of the rent. So how much would we contribute? So we take the payment standard, $900, because they have a 2-bedroom voucher size. So payment standard of $900 minus the minimum contribution, $214, which equals the maximum Belmont is going to pay, which is $686. Okay, so how do we find what you need to stay under? We take the maximum contribution the family could pay, $285 a month, plus the maximum amount we can pay, which is $686. And the most you can rent an apartment for, including all utilities or your gross rent, is $971 in this example. So, payment standard $900. The least the tenant will pay $214. The most Belmont will pay. The maximum allowable family contribution 40%, $285. Plus the maximum subsidy, $686, equals the most you can rent an apartment for with all utilities included is $971. On your certification of eligibility page, please sign if you understand how we calculated this. We will need to collect it at the end, so either you can send it in to us or we'll collect it. This is not exactly what your portion and our portion will be, but this is a range that you can use when you're looking for an apartment. Like I said, please sign the bottom of the form. This range is what you should be staying under and what you know your minimum and maximum amount you could pay out of pocket for. If you have public assistance and they are paying a portion of your rent, the minimum maximum amount you can pay out of pocket will be the same, but then you can take a public assistance notice from us to public assistance to have them adjust your portion and what they are going to cover. They should have a shelter and fuel cost that they can calculate to offset how much you have to pay out of pocket. So if you are receiving public assistance, I don't want to say don't worry, but you're not going to end up paying exactly $214 or $285 out of pocket. Also, again, this is an example. It's not exactly what your household or your family, looks like on paper. Okay, again, we cannot tell you your portion of rent until we have a correct income, correct household, a completed RFTA, also known as a landlord packet, and that RFTA needs to include rent, the number of bedrooms, the utility structure, and unit type, and if the unit's passed inspection or not. Once we have all of those things, then we can give you an estimate on what your portion is going to be. I can't tell you exactly what your portion is going to be because depending on who pays what utilities, where the house is located, what type of house it is, they'll be slightly different. So, understanding utilities. The most you can rent an apartment for, or your maximum gross rent, should cover all the utilities. If your rent does not include utilities, calculate utility expenses using the utility allowance schedule. All right, I'd like everyone, once they've signed all the pages in the tenant packet, to set that aside and take out, currently it's a purple packet, like this. We're going to turn to page 2. For our example, we're going to be using semi-detached duplex / older converted home. So this is broken down by housing type. You're going to take this with you to when you're looking at houses to figure out utilities. So say utilities aren't included in rent, like they are in most of the buildings in Buffalo, you're almost always going to have to pay some utilities. This can give you a general guideline of how much you're going to have to pay out of pocket each month for utilities. So this is an example. Let's move this. In this example, the rent is $700. It's a 2-bedroom unit. The unit type is semi-detached. The tenant pays for gas and electric and supplies the stove and fridge. The landlord pays for water, sewer, and garbage. What is their utility allowance? So we're going to go over on your purple page to row number 2 for 2-bedroom in the semi-detached column, and we're going to go through. So if the tenant is paying for gas and electric, the gas is $57. The cooking for gas is $7. The other electricity is $51. The air conditioning, we don't count. The heating for the water, which is also with gas, remember the tenant is paying that, is $9. They're not paying for water or sewer, so we're not going to count those. Trash collection is also paid for by the landlord, but the range or microwave and the refrigerator are paid by the tenant, and that's $5 and $4 accordingly. So the utility allowance for this apartment is $133. The rent to owner is $700. The gross rent for this building then would be $833. So if we know that the gross rent is $833 and this family, the maximum gross rent they could afford was $971, is this affordable for them? The answer is yes. This $833 falls below $971, even with all utilities included. So this apartment would be a good apartment to submit a landlord packet for. Typical common allowances for housing type is where the tenant pays gas and electric, provides the stove and fridge. Here are some examples. You can run through them very quickly and just keep this in mind. These are general guidelines. Obviously, if your household has, people who run water a lot or leave the lights on, your bills might be different. I grew up in a household with sisters, so our water bill was always very high. But again, it depends on your family. These are just estimates. Okay. So how to find a good home? You have the option of staying in your current home as long as the rent is affordable and reasonable and it passes inspection. You may want to consider staying in your current apartment for the first year to save up money for a security deposit. If you are looking for a new apartment, you may want to look in the community papers and Buffalo News. Ask your friends and family if they have seen any for rent signs. Not a lot of landlords are tech savvy, or if you use Google, you could do Buffalo Apartments. That's a good website. Be wary of Craigslist and Facebook. They are options, but just keep that in mind. Be a little bit, guarded about that. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. You can also contact NewYorkHousingSearch.gov or call them at 1-877-428-8844 for assistance in housing search. We can put the amount of rooms you are looking for in the area and the maximum rent, and you can, give yourself a better detail. But there are no Belmont approved homes. All units, like I said earlier, should accept Section 8 because it is the law to accept Section 8. So when you are looking for an apartment, look the way anyone else would because your income is just as good as anyone else's. You should be able, as long as it's in your affordability, to go out and find something and settle in and not have any problems. So just when you're out there, just keep it in mind, drive around a neighborhood you're interested in, look in newspapers, keep your eyes open, look online, totally fine to, house hunt that way. If you need help, you can come in and get help with a housing search in our office, or you can, like I said, contact home, or, just do it on your own. Make sure you're keeping track of where you're looking. Like I said, because if you need an extension, you're going to have to prove that you've gone and seen homes and you've been searching. So two big goals for the program are to help you keep and secure affordable housing. We want you to be able to live in a place where you are happy and safe and can afford to live there. We have a resource center, one-on-one assistance with some of our coworkers. We have phones and computers to use in the office if you need help looking. We have a satellite office in the city of North Tonawanda, and you can just come in and take a look through our listings whenever you need to, whenever our office is open. Any landlord can post a listing. We do not verify the quality of the units. We cannot confirm all units, whether we have pulled them, someone else pulled them, you pulled them. They're still going to have to pass inspection, and they're still going to have to be up to housing quality standards. We can't guarantee that they are when we're giving you listings. All we can do is give you the listings. Okay. So when looking for an apartment, make sure you're going to be comfortable there, all year round, because when you sign for the first year, you will be there for a full year. You are signing a lease for a full year. Make sure you're going to be comfortable there in the winter. Who's going to shovel this snow? Where will I park my car? Will I have to park it on the street in the city? When the plow goes by, am I going to be okay with that? Is it in the school district I want? Do I like my neighbors? Does it seem like a safe place? Is it near public transportation? All of those things need to be taken into account when you're looking for a house. Please don't pick the first house you see just because it's the first house you see. Additionally, please don't pay your landlord until it passes an inspection. A lot of times landlords will want you to pay up front. We recommend not paying until inspection passes. And when I say not paying, I mean don't pay security deposit until after it passes inspection. Because if the unit doesn't pass inspection and you've already paid, and then you need to find a new unit, sometimes we have had this happen where landlords have taken the money and not given it back to tenants. So we always recommend not to pay until after inspection has passed. So we do not pay security deposit. You can get a security agreement from Windows 7 down at the Department of Social Services. I actually think they've moved, I'm sorry, but the Department of Social Services can give you a security agreement. A security agreement is almost the same thing as a security deposit. A security agreement is just that the Department of Social Services will pay at the end of your tenancy if there is damages. That's it. Which is why it's illegal to discriminate because you've received one. It's the same thing as a security deposit. It's now illegal in New York State for landlords to request first, last, and security deposit. They can request security deposit and first month's rent or security deposit and last month's rent, but they can't ask for all three. So just please keep that in mind as well. You can ask home for help. Occasionally they get grants from the community for help with, new tenants coming onto the program, trying to find a house. So that's always worth just reaching out to them and giving them a call. If you pay a landlord, please get it in writing and keep all your receipts. Okay. Make sure when you're going out there that when you're bringing your landlord packet with you to a house that you're seeing and you decide that this is the house for you, you're willing to take a chance and put the landlord packet in, that you fill out every page. If you turn in a half-completed landlord packet, I can't accept it and I will return it to you. Okay. When you're moving from your assisted unit, please be advised that regulation requires Belmont to provide your prospective landlords with your current address, the name and of your current landlord, and the name and address of your previous landlord. So all of you are just starting the program, so we don't know who your previous landlords are. But say you're on the program for 4 or 5 years and you've moved 4 or 5 times. If you're moving again, we have to legally provide your new landlord with the contact information and address of your previous landlord so that they can reach out. So please be a good tenant, because if they follow up and do their due diligence, you might not be able to, they might turn you away for not being a good tenant if you have not been. You do not have to be on social services to have received assistance. Oh, that's for, sorry, the security agreement. You don't have to be receiving public assistance to receive a security agreement. Okay, so request for tenancy approval or landlord packet. Everyone, I'd like you to take out your red sticker packet. It looks like this. It says landlord packet on the front. By submitting this packet with all the pages completed, you are putting a pause on those 60 days. Remember, you only have 60 days to turn this into me. If you wait until, your 60th day to turn it in, and then say the unit doesn't pass for whatever reason, you don't get any more time. The time does not restart. The time is only paused when you put this in. That's why it's very important to make finding a home your main priority and turning this landlord packet into me as soon as possible. The landlord packet or RFTA is required for inspection to be scheduled. Even if you are staying in your current unit, the RFTA must be submitted before your voucher expires. Again, the sooner you submit it, the sooner we put a pause, and the sooner we can, get you scheduled for an inspection and get you moved into a new home. RFTA stands for Request for Tenancy Approval. So the first few pages are a brief explanation on how the program works and the housing quality standards. These are, again, the few things that our inspectors look for. Please turn to page 7. Everyone should write their name where it says tenant's name. This is a very common mistake of people not putting their names on their packets and then just dropping them off, and we don't know who they're for. So please just write your name. The packet is for you and your landlord to fill out. Everything has to be completed if you're returning it. And when you're returning it, you're saying to your best of your ability, you expect this unit to pass. You're comfortable with putting, money down on this and eventually moving in. Again, we recommend you don't pay until after it passes, but by turning this packet in, you're saying, I'm okay with this. This looks good to me. Your RFTA has information on it such as unit size, prospective rent, what utilities are included, and we need this information in order to figure out what portion you're going to be paying. That small box on page 7 where it says for IRS reporting, that information, the landlord does not have to fill out in front of you because it is taxpayer information, tax ID, social security number. We'll request that after, but literally everything else has to be completed. This is the most important page. It describes the utility structure. Please fill it out very carefully with your landlord. This is also important, and this top box is for complexes. So if you're moving into an apartment complex, a senior complex, this is where your landlord will also have to fill out paperwork. Restrictions for leasing to relatives. Again, you're not allowed to rent from relatives. You cannot rent from, for example, your child's grandma or an in-law relation, step relation. You can't rent from someone. Mother, father, to no. If you are currently renting from a household member due to a medical necessity, you can contact your housing specialist and get a reasonable accommodation form to complete. Please turn the page where it says disclosure of information on lead-based paint. You've received your packet today in your red folder, which is protect your family from lead in your home. So if you would like to initial on line D saying that you got it, you got it. It's just often overlooked, which is why we want you to have that packet, mark it down today. You can also sign at the bottom of the page as well, again, saying that you have received the booklet, Protect Your Family from Lead. So rent negotiations. Your rent plus utilities is less than 40% of your income. That means it's affordable. We did that calculation earlier. Reasonable compared to similar units in the area. If your landlord is asking for more rent than what you can afford or is being unreasonable, we will contact your landlord and ask them to lower the rent. Let us negotiate the rent with your landlord. We know what you can afford. If you are paying more than your portion we calculated for you, you risk losing your assistance. That means if your landlord says, well, I'm going to put down the rent $700, but you're going to pay me $100 on the side each month. We have had it happen. Do not overpay your landlord. It's considered a side payment and you could lose your assistance for it. So inspections. There's no such thing as a Belmont approved unit. Inspect everything carefully. Please look into the booklet, A Good Place to Live, and get it right the first time. They're in your red folder. Research your neighborhood and talk to the owners. You could even talk to the neighbors. Our inspectors are not looking for cleanliness. They're not looking for, the house to be fresh paint, immaculate. We're looking for to see if it's actually a safe place to live. We'll be looking for issues like this, lead paint. If we see chipping, peeling, cracking paint that looks like this, it's lead and will require the landlord to repaint it. If the landlord doesn't repaint it, then we won't pass the unit and you'll have to find another one. So if you see this, especially if you're pregnant or have young children, please, deeply consider if it's worth putting in a landlord packet and if the landlord's going to be willing to make this kind of repair. So inspection items that fail most often, windows need to be able to be open and stay open without being propped up. This is because you need to be able to escape out of a window in case there is a fire. Outlets near, say, a water source need to be GFCI. That way they don't short circuit and blow the power in your house or you don't get electrocuted. So we would require, say, if it wasn't a GFCI outlet, that it be updated to one. Steps with 4 or more stairs need a railing. All the burners on a stove and a fridge, all the burners on a stove must work, the oven must work. For a fridge, freezer and fridge must both be in working order. Smoke detectors, doesn't matter where they are in the house, but it matters that they work. They have to be functional. Your hot and cold water need to be on, and the utilities to your house or the prospective house need to be on. They don't necessarily have to be in your name yet, but they need to be on so we can see the lights work, the power works, the water works, the gas on the stove works. So the utilities do have to be on in the new unit. Additionally, we're going to need a fridge and stove there if you are responsible for supplying it. If you are, using your fridge and stove in your current apartment, we would go out and still inspect your new unit, your prospective new unit, and if everything passes, the only thing that's holding back a pass is you moving your fridge and stove to the new place. Then when you move, we'll come back out and re-inspect and pass it. So if it passes without the fridge and stove, it passes inconclusive. Inconclusive means that you have a short amount of time to move in, set your things up, and we'll come back out to re-inspect. We don't expect you to have, a fridge and stove in 2 places at once. So if a unit fails, encourage the owner to make repairs as soon as possible. Once repairs are made, call Belmont Housing Department as soon as possible at extension 119 to request an extension. We do not schedule an inspection unless you or the landlord calls us. We won't know that the repairs have been made if you don't call, so please have someone call. Inspections could fail. The landlord will have 30 days to make the repairs. If they don't make the repairs or schedule an inspection within 30 days, if they don't call for a re-inspection within those 30 days, we're going to say, unfortunately, it looks like the landlord isn't going to be making repairs. Here's your packet back. Go find another unit. Your timer starts again. So it's very important, like I said, when you turn in that landlord packet, you feel very confident that the house is going to pass or the repairs that need to be made are going to be minimal, and the landlord is going to be able to work with you to make those repairs. So if a unit does pass inspection, that's great. So if the unit passes inspection before the 15th of the month, including the tenant supplied utilities and appliances, your assistance will begin as of the inspection pass date. You must occupy the unit within 3 days of the pass date in order for assistance to begin before the 1st of the following month. Belmont will pay a prorated portion if it passes between the 2nd and the 15th of the month. If the unit passes after the 15th of the month, the assistance will begin for the 1st of the following month. This means you can move in and pay security deposit if it passes, but just keep in mind on when we're going to start paying from. A few days after the inspection happens, we will receive your inspections report, and then we'll be able to generate your contract for your landlord, figure out exactly how much portion you're going to have to pay, and we're going to receive, once we've received a signed copy of the contract and lease, we can send out final paperwork to your landlord and start paying your rent, start paying a portion of rent. Remember, we cannot release payment to your landlord until we get final paperwork back. So the most important parts of this presentation today were report all household income and composition changes. So composition is who makes up your household. Income and composition changes within 30 days of the change. If you fail to report it, it's considered fraud and it could cause you to lose your assistance. Your voucher has 60 days. Make finding a unit your full-time job. Nothing happens until you submit an RFTA, know your limit for rent and utilities, and the unit must pass inspection before rental assistance can begin. Be prepared to pay security deposit and always get receipts. Visit the Housing Resource Center for vacancy listings and meet with a housing counselor to find a new unit. I'm going to read over the tenant briefing certificate. I need everyone to sign it after I'm done reading it. It will be something that we do collect. So let me just pull that. By signing this again, you're just saying that you understood the orientation, you understood what we all just went over, and you understand how we figured out different things for you to receive your assistance. You put your name, certified I have attended orientation and received the following information pertaining to the Housing Choice Program, my responsibilities for the program, my tenant obligations. I understand that I must report any and all changes to my household composition and or income immediately within 30 days of the date of the change. Household income and composition will be recertified annually. Annually doesn't mean in January every year, it means once a year. So whenever the recertification for you happens, it will happen around that same time every year. And all information requested by Belmont must be supplied for your recertification by the requested deadlines. Failure to supply could mean pending or final termination. Request Belmont approval prior to the addition to any adults in your household. Failure to report changes or abide by tenant obligations may result in the termination of your rental assistance. Your voucher size and how it was determined. A child must reside in my assisted unit at least 51% of the time to be included on my voucher. My voucher has an initial term of 60 days to submit a request for tenancy approval, and requests for the 2 available 30-day extensions must be received in writing prior to the expiration date. The maximum gross rent of what I'm able to afford and how it was determined, the utility allowance and how it was determined, federal and state fair housing laws, lead-based paint, you received the booklet, the informal hearing process of how to request one. I understand I cannot rent from the parent, child, grandparent, grandchild, brother, sister, step relation, or in-law relation of any household members. I will be signing a 1-year lease. I must notify Belmont and the owner in writing before moving out of the unit in accordance with my lease. Belmont requires a minimum of 30 days written notice. The lease may require more notice. Please sign, date, and put your phone number on the bottom of this page. It will be something we will be collecting or required for you to turn in. And good luck. The following documents must be returned: the voucher, all 3 pages, the asset income eligibility, the certification of eligibility, those are those pages in the voucher packet, the orientation certificate, the back page of your voucher packet, your FSS referral if you're interested, and supply supplement to application, your contact information, your housing survey, or like I said, if there's been changes to your case, call your housing specialist and they can then make those adjustments if you wrote them down. Good luck and good house hunting.